Good morning, everyone. As always, I will begin by sharing where we are with violence in the city. As of today, homicides are down 21%, non-fatal shootings are down 9%, our carjackings are down 19%, and we've removed 2,678 guns from our communities this year, a 9% increase over last year. And you've all have consistently heard me talk about how much work from our many different partners under my comprehensive violence prevention plan to drive those numbers. So I want to continue to thank everyone and their all hands on deck approach from BPD, Monty, all of our partners across the criminal justice sphere. Because of their work, we know that Baltimore is on pace to be under 300 homicides this year for the first time in 9 years, which is proof that not only the strategy is working and that we can continue to build on that. But I want to always be clear that those are not just numbers for me. Those are actual Baltimoreans. Those are actual communities who have to consistently been dealing with that. And despite the encouraging progress, I am not satisfied until we're at zero. Because as we say, when we're out with We Are Us, one life is one too many here in Baltimore. But I want to also highlight a few other things today before we get to questions. First, a reminder that our upgrade clinic about Hyundai that we announced last week, which we will have at M&T Bank Stadium this weekend, starting Friday at 8 a.m. I hope that everyone has an eligible vehicle. It comes out. You can find out more information online. It's on my social media. It's on the police department social media. I know several media outlets have shared that information. And we want to make sure that everyone gets there Friday, Saturday, Sunday before the Ravens defeat the Jaguars, of course. Second, this morning, DPW released an update on the partnership with our partners in Baltimore County on the effort to identify service line materials under EPA's lead and copper pipe rule. We, of course, discussed this issue before, and I want to say again that simply because a building service line or mark is identified, that does not mean that there is any danger. It's identifying them that we're focused on, and we know it's going to take a lot, and a lot of us going to be talking, and all of us, in order to do this work over the next few years. Today, in addition to resharing the information about the partnership and the map tool that many of you have already seen, we're also announcing 2 joint community events that will be held in partnership with the county. First will be January 22nd at 6:30 p.m., which will be held in the county at the Randallstown Community Center, which is at 3505 Resource Drive. The second will be a week later on January 29th at 6:30 p.m., which will be at Middle Branch Fitness and Wellness Center, 201 Reedbird Avenue in Cherry Hill. We're going to be doing demonstrations on how to test your pipes in your homes, answering questions, and talking about everything that we, along with cities and towns across the country, need to do as a part of this effort. So I hope that everyone will be able to come out to those events, especially if you're unsure about what is in your home. They'll also be doing a bunch of outreach in other ways over the next few months. Inserts in water bills, postcards sent to residents who are on the unidentified list, and lots of social media and how-to videos and instructions so that people can get that information if they can't come to the meeting. So you'll be hearing a lot more and getting much more information about the effort in the coming weeks. And we, again, want everybody to participate to make sure that we are getting all the lead pipes out of our system. Now, I'm also glad to be joined here today of some of our members of our BSIT team. They're here this morning because of this morning's, the city's first ever digital inclusion strategy is now available to the public on baltimorecity.gov. BSIT's Office of Broadband and Digital Equity, an office that we established in 2020 to help close the digital divide, develop the strategy in partnership with the community. The strategy is rooted in the belief that access to technology is not a luxury, but a fundamental necessity in today's world. We've established 4 actionable overarching goals to reflect our commitment to digital equity and inclusion: reliable high-speed internet, access to modern computing devices, digital skills training, and technical support. The digital inclusion strategy is an important component of my administration's overarching vision for Baltimore City, specifically the pillar of equitable neighborhood development, which we've been talking a lot about this week. There's a lot included in this strategy, and it's going to take a collective effort to help Baltimore take the steps we need to close the digital divide. In order to do this, BSID has laid out a roadmap for some of the biggest priorities. Convening stakeholders, these partners will help us understand the specific needs of diverse groups and match organizations to meet those very needs. Focusing on fiber optics, we're going to focus on fiber optics as the preferred infrastructure to ensure reliability, longevity, and scalability to provide meaningful broadband access to all of our residents. Public-private partnerships. We're going to pursue these public-private partnerships that are key to expanding infrastructure while reducing costs and help pave the way for a world-class communication infrastructure in Baltimore. Building confidence and skills. We're going to be investing in digital skills and training, ongoing support programs, and establishing tech hubs in neighborhoods that will build confidence and help our residents navigate the digital landscape. Because we know that the digital divide isn't just about hardware access. It's about providing an opportunity to learn to those who may not have grown up with access to tech like so many of us have in Baltimore City. Increasing participation in ongoing national services. We're going to continue to be leveraging federal programs like the Affordable Connectivity Program that has a proven track record of increasing broadband adoption in lower income communities. We aim to work and expand those efforts in the future. Our goal is to break down barriers and ensure low-income residents get access to these programs. And sustainable funding options. Exploring various funding opportunities, including federal grants like BEAD, the BEAD program, and the Digital Equity Act, which will help with the commitment to long-term sustainability that this effort requires. And we're also going to be making sure that collaboration with community leaders and stakeholders to ensure that these long-term funding initiatives remain for our residents in Baltimore and that they're required to be a part of this approach. And I've said many times before that closing the digital divide is one of the defining civil rights issues of our time. BSID has done an incredible job on this plan, and together with the collective efforts of the stakeholders and community leaders and residents, we will close the digital divide and create a more connected Baltimore. Already, the National Digital Inclusion Alliance named Baltimore City as one of the nation's visionary digital inclusion trailblazers, an award bestowed upon municipalities and regional governments for innovative approaches towards closing the digital divide. This is yet another testament to the tireless efforts of my administration to close the digital divide, and we have a lot more work to do in this area, and you will see that continue to come. All of these efforts are interconnected to overcome the decades of disinvestment in our neighborhoods, which all of you have heard me talk about time and time and time again. So before I jump into questions, I want to revisit the fact that less than 48 hours ago, on Monday night, I stood alongside our leaders and partners in the faith community and Build, the business community, and GBC, and we announced a partnership and a real, concrete, actionable plan to make the most historic investment in Baltimore's neighborhoods in our history. And I want that to really sit with everyone for a moment. So much talk has gone into the vacant housing crisis and how to solve it over the course of my entire lifetime. And now that we have a roadmap to actually make it happen, a $3 billion, 15-year plan that is designed to live on past my administrations and ones to come, because any individual leader as well or organization, because that's what this crisis requires. We spent months, really years, working together on what was the right approach, and we put forward a plan that I am proud of and that I know that all of Baltimore can be proud of and are excited by. Non-contiguous TIFs, resurrecting the Industrial Development Authority, pulling in philanthropic and private investment, and hoping to change the fact that Baltimore is alone among peer cities, which we call NFL cities, and the fact that we don't get a portion of the sales tax that we all pay. Look, I want to be very clear. I know this plan is big and bold, and it requires a lot of work to get us there. But a big, bold vision is what's needed to solve this crisis once and for all. It's what hasn't been done. Piecemealing will not work with this issue. So for those of you who want to know more about the work, we have a story map that outlines what we're proposing and how this plan is going to work. You can find that on our website, and I know we've posted it several times over the past few days. So I'm encouraging everyone to check out this bold plan that we have laid out together. And with that, we'll go to questions.
I gotta start.
I'll take a drink. Which you gotta be clear. Which image?
I'm
No,
going
it's
on
not from
contact.
better.
So at your primary election victory party in 2020, the world was at a totally different place, as we all know. And when you were delivering remarks from your grandmother's front yard, I remember you saying that when the pandemic recedes into the background, we can't go back to normal, pre-2020 normal. And now as you're entering your fourth and final year of this term, I wonder if you feel you've achieved that goal of setting a baseline of new normal that works better for all Baltimoreans, and what work remains in order to get us fully there.
Yeah, Emily, I would say yes. I think that we have. And we also know that the world has also determined that we're not going to go back to normal. When you think about what normal was before in Baltimore, normal was we were piecemealing our investments, especially into our neighborhoods and into our young people. When folks are not in Baltimore, not going to go back to accepting recreational parks as it was before, where folks, we were down in Middle Branch last night for the meeting about the Inner Harbor, where people were like, Rec and Parks built this? This is not what we're used to from them. No one's going to allow us to go back to that. No one's going to allow us to go back to the days where we don't have investments into neighborhoods, the days that we would just let upland sit and deteriorate and have that project not go, the days we would just sit and let the Emerson Village Shopping Center be in the hands of someone who does not care about Emerson Village. The days we would sit and let the Inner Harbor just sit there and deteriorate. And we took those actions, and very unique actions, because I could have, Emily, done what all my predecessors did before. Just allow the person that owned Emerson Village to keep it. But we actually had to get it in the better hands because it's what that neighborhood deserves. And I think that highlights a very good thing about how things are different. Because we went through the actions of our former city solicitor, Jim Shea, and he passed that off to Ebony Thompson. But that wasn't enough. In the summer of 2023, a young black mayor of Baltimore had to go door to door in Emerson Village to convince black residents to remove a racial covenant that would allow a black man to own the shopping center. That's how we've been able to set that framework on how things are different. We set the framework different, that we don't have to make a false choice, Emily, about whether we can drive down violence and focus on constitutional policing. We're doing both, and we're doing it through a comprehensive vision that allows us to invest into community groups and organizations that are working towards reducing violence and modernizing practices within the police department. Why would we go back to the days where every single behavior health and substance abuse call goes to police officers when we've been lauded and awarded by MACO as an innovation, right? Seeing other cities look at what we're doing. Why would Baltimore go back to that? Why would we go back to the days of gun trace task force and all of those things when we have proven that we can do it the better way, the right way for all of Baltimore?
Thank you.
Tyler?
So with the lead pipe stuff, obviously the difference between 5% of residents checking their pipes for lead and 20% of residents checking their pipes for lead could be the difference in millions of dollars spent by the city. So with that in mind, going into 2024, where does addressing this issue, addressing the lead pipe issue, rank on your list of priorities? Is it top 5, top 10, or are there too many other pressing issues?
Well, I think that anyone that knows that when the federal government tells you to have to do something, then it becomes a top issue, right? And we are doing this not just because they are telling us that we have to, but also it's the right thing to do. Quite frankly, it should have been done 30 years ago, right? Like, but now that we all know better, that the government knows better, we have to do better. And we're going to make sure that we're working. That's why you hear us talk about all of the things that we're doing to make sure that all of our residents, because as you know, this is not just a Baltimore thing, this is not just a Baltimore County thing. This has to be done around the country. And when your local government and the federal government tells you to do something, you do it.
Quick follow that. So the city is famously suing Exxon Mobile, and I reported in August that, the city was sharing a lobbying firm with Exxon Mobile. Since that story in August, that lobbying firm has stopped working with Exxon Mobile. My question is, did you ask that lobbying firm to stop representing Exxon?
So we have a fabulous in-house lobbying team. The firm you mentioned, Flying Black, is a part of that team. We've historically selected a few lobbyists that have providing expertise for the city in addition to bolstering our local team. We have outside counsel and lobbyists we hold them to the highest ethical standard, and at this point in time, there is no ethical issue.
Mackenzie?
Yesterday we reported, we have the names of the Safe Streets workers at the Bel Air Edison's location. One of the employees was part of the 2010 BGF federal investigation. He went to prison, and now his name is appearing as he was an employee at the Bel Air Edison site. How does possible or confirmed gang affiliation factor into the screening process when employees are being screened for hiring?
Well, thank you for the question, Mackenzie. I won't go into details about the current case for obvious reasons, but what I will say is that working with our partners, working with law enforcement, there is a process for screening, and that process is going to consistently be updated as it has been over time.
So does gang affiliation factor into that?
There's a screening process with law enforcement that considers whether someone should be hired or not.
Let's go to Adam.
Question about the broadband plan. I haven't seen the new plan yet, but as far as the ARPA investments goes, there's some substantial infrastructure elements to that plan. Given the time constraints around federal deadlines, end of 2024 for those kind of finalized ARPA commitments is pretty close. Just wondering, how are you feeling about being able to execute all those infrastructure projects?
Yeah, I'll let the director talk more about that, but we're always looking towards that, making sure that we're making those investments in a timely manner.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We're very confident that we can get the work done for the Broadband and Digital Equity Program. In fact, you're going to see a solicitation come out over the next several weeks that really highlights the work we're doing to provide broadband services to public housing. So it's happening, we figured it out, and we're moving it.
Can you just say a little bit more about the public housing program? I've been interested to hear more details on it.
So we are partnering with HABC to provide broadband services to 8 public housing units. From there, which is a big lift on our part, I think it takes about 41 or 3,100 units in total. From there, we'll move forward to other areas partnering with HABC. But that's the work that's already started. We've got pipes in the ground, and we're looking at the solicitation to pull all things together, not just the physical infrastructure, but also the wraparound services for training and education and so forth.
Do we have WJZ or WOER?
Yeah, WER. Yeah. Yes, Mayor. I have 2 questions. The first question, we all know that Baltimore is on pace to not reach 300 homicides for the first time since 2014, just have 2 more weeks in this year. How do we keep that up for 2024, 2025?
We keep that up by doing the things that we have been doing and also evolving. We know that those who commit acts of violence and do criminal acts, they're going to adjust, and we have to do that as well. We're talking about, and this is why we talked about having a sustainable violence reduction strategy. We're going to do the things that we have been doing. We're going to be expanding the group violence reduction strategy into the central and other districts. We're going to be continuing to go after any and everybody that is involved in gun violence, whether they're a person pulling a trigger, those people trafficking manufacturers. We're going to be making sure that we're handing them off to the other parts of the criminal justice system. We're going to be going down to Annapolis to get some changes to some things that we think need to change, like home monitoring and things that you guys have heard me talk about for years now. That is how we have to do it. But the most important part is that we're going to continue to deepen our relationship with our community members who aid us in reducing violence in the city of Baltimore.
I just had one final question in reference to the Inner Harbor and Harbor Place. Anytime you have a major development, you're going to have some people who are, I guess, afraid of change, maybe pessimistic. What would you tell some of the people in Baltimore who have some, I guess, pessimism about the project?
Listen, we know that the Inner Harbor is Baltimore's face to the world, and it's been allowed to deteriorate for far too long. It once was great as the thing that we all remember growing up, but what was there before does not work in 2023 and beyond's economy. Malls don't work. Those kind of things don't work. And what MCB and the team have developed is a plan for us to have a more inclusive, open Inner Harbor for everyone, focus on the best of Baltimore, that allows us to continue to grow our downtown, which is our fastest growing residential neighborhood, and doing this the right way, engaging with the community before and during the process, as we even did last night with folks. And that's what this is about. This is about allowing a Baltimorean for West Baltimore and the city and everyone else to come to in partnership together to make the Inner Harbor the next best version of itself.
Go to the sun.
This week you rolled out, as you mentioned, your plan to address vacant properties in the city. Part of that is trying to capture a share of the sales tax locally. Are you proposing taking a part of the sales tax at the existing rate and giving that to the city, or are you talking about or proposing an increase in the sales tax and taking the increase?
Thank you for that question, Emily. It's the existing sales tax, and I just think for folks in Baltimore who are hearing me, and folks, there are some folks who are saying that this plan is too bold. Was it too bold, or was the sales tax an issue when they allowed Ocean City to keep some of it, right? Like, Baltimore is a major city, and we can't continuously hear from folks in Maryland and beyond about how Baltimore needs to be like all these other cities, and we're not allowed to do that. We should be able to do that like every other major city, like Ocean City, because we are the tourist destination in the state of Maryland, right? We are that driver of economics in the state of Maryland. And when you hear these folks who are criticizing this plan, we work with national experts, community, business, religious institutions, everybody coming together to build this plan. And I will say, Emily, that for folks that are criticizing, I can't help but feel, as a young black man in Baltimore, that it's not about what we're doing, it's about where and who we're doing it for. Because we haven't had issues with TIFs, downtown, Harbor East, Harbor Point, Baltimore Peninsula, all of which I personally support, right? And supported with my vote. But there was no question then. Why is it that now when we're talking about investing TIFs into neighborhoods in East and West Baltimore, Northwest Baltimore, that is now too bold? And when are we going to have it? We can't have it both ways. We can't have folks saying Baltimore isn't bold enough. Baltimore doesn't think big. Baltimore doesn't take big, bold actions. And then when we do that, they say this is too bold. And we're not talking about, Emily, a bunch of money. When you talk about $300 million over 15 years, that's $20 million a year. That's basically doubling, a little more than doubling what the city puts forward right now. And I want Baltimoreans, especially those who live in those neighborhoods, to think about what people are saying when they say, no, you can't do this, you shouldn't do this in these neighborhoods. They don't have a problem with TIFs. They have a problem with TIFs for you, and that is the problem.
Did anybody not got the question?
Sorry, just to piggyback on that, your plan does include a pretty large investment from the state that you're asking for. Since it's been announced more broadly, have you gotten any feedback from state legislators or from the governor's office?
As I said on Monday night, that we've been in constant contact with our partners at the state. They have been great partners in this work even before this announcement, and I know in my heart that they're going to support us in a significant way, and we're looking forward to working with them on that.
Has anybody not gotten a question? We'll go back to Mackenzie.
Just to go back to safe streets, are you aware of anyone who is currently employed by the Safe Streets program or was previously employed that had affiliations with gangs?
No, anybody that we're aware of that we find out of those kind of things, whether they work at Safe Streets, whether they work at WBFF, they will see and hear from the Baltimore Police Department.
Last question to Alex.
We were told there'd be a more concrete timeline presented on the light rail this weekend. Do you have any updates today on that?
I don't. We know that you guys can ask those questions to the folks at the state. I'll just say what I've been saying, that we know how big of a deal this is, but I want to point out again, this is what happens when you have 8 years of someone literally being asked no tough questions, literally disinvesting into mass transit, taking Baltimore off the map, all of these things, and this is what happens. And now the governor and his team have to deal with the issue. We've been working and trying to get things and looking at asking them for things that would help our residents in the meantime, right? We know how many of our residents, how many of our students, how many people that are working depend on it, whether they're going from Baltimore out to McCormick or they're trying to get to that high school on another side of town. It's a critical thing, and this is why we have to have investment, a long-term investment into MTA to make sure that these things don't happen in the future. Thank you.